All right, stand by. 10 seconds to go.
Talent.
Ready, camera,
Roll
And cue talent.
one.
Roll to record.
Victim blaming hits a new low. I'm John Phillips, and this is The Rundown. First, they attack people praying after the terror attack. Now, a New York Daily News column is calling a Jewish victim of the San Bernardino attack just as much of a hate-filled bigot as the terrorists, and claims there were only 13 innocent victims. So apparently criticizing Islam makes you morally equivalent to someone who slaughters friends and coworkers, right? The columnist is a woman named Linda Stassi. There she is. And here's a couple of nuggets from her piece. Quote, they were two hate-filled, bigoted municipal employees interacting in one department. Now 13 innocent people are dead in unspeakable carnage, end quote. The first hate-filled bigot she's talking about is the terrorist, Saeed Farouk. She doesn't mention the wife. She somehow gets left out of the whole conversation. The second quote-unquote bigot she's talking about is a man named Nicholas Thalasinos, who was Jewish but converted to Christianity and a vigorous critic of Islam. She continues, quote, make no mistake, as disgusting and deservedly dead as the hate-filled fanatical Muslim killers were, Thalasinos was also a hate-filled bigot. Why was he such a horrible person? Well, she explains. Thalasinos was an anti-government, anti-Islam, pro-NRA, rabidly anti-Planned Parenthood kind of guy who posted that it would be freaking awesome if hateful Ann Coulter was named head of Homeland Security. He asked, is one, every politician is bought and paid for, two, every politician is a moron, three, every politician is racist against Jews. And for these horrible thought crimes, daring to speak out about Islam, supporting the NRA, and liking, of all people, Ann Coulter, he's just as bad as the killer. Liberals have always been quick to jump on victim blaming as it pertains to sexual assaults. So why is it okay to do it in this instance? Is it because they believe anyone who isn't politically correct deserves what they get? Have they declared conservatism morally repugnant so many times they now means it believes they believe that it merits the death penalty? Have we lost our minds? Joining me to talk about all the controversy is author and political satirist Scott Ott, who's in Dallas, Texas, and here in Southern California, stand-up comic and PJTV contributor Stephen Cruiser. Cruiser, is she coming out of the closet and saying that she believes that conservatism is so objectionable that you deserve the death penalty? If you get killed, it's on you.
Well, not just conservatism, Judaism and Christianity, too. And not surprising that a woman who bears the same name as the East Sherman secret police is anti-Jewish and running interference for the Muslim killers. And this is the same newspaper, by the way, that employs Sean King, everybody's favorite white guy who's pretending to be black. So it's like you have to consider the source, first of all, which is a very dubious, ridiculous source. But it's how quickly she did it was what was stunning too. It's like, okay, I got to find some way to run interference. Everybody else is going with the gun control thing. So I'm going to go with, oh, they were bigots who deserved it. But you get to the heart of the matter there where, you know, all leftism is emotional. There is nothing pragmatic. There's nothing logical there. There's nothing. And they start to believe after a while that they truly are the agents of change in the world. They really believe that changing the kind of light bulb they use in their house is saving the planet. And they become these just purely emotional beings. So yes, they do think, they don't understand that people can't think the same. And if you can't think the same, you must be flawed. You must be evil. You must be gotten rid of. They're a hive mind. They don't like dissent. And you hit the nail on the head. She's saying it's okay to kill people who she disagrees with.
Scott, do we now live in a world where you have to say Islam is a religion of peace, and if you don't say so, it's okay for them to keep killing you until you finally admit it?
It's getting there. I mean, you know, let's give the Stasi her due and say maybe she's just one of those sunny optimist who sees the silver lining in every cloud and says, yes, I know 14 people were killed, but one of them was a hateful bigot who liked Ann Coulter, so it's not all bad. I mean, this is just stunning that there's any legitimate news source in the country that would be willing to put that kind of commentary in their pages. How is it that when, you know, Rush Limbaugh referred to somebody as a slut once, there was an organized effort to withdraw advertising from his program, but this news source apparently can continue in perpetuity spouting this kind of nonsense? How is it possible that on the, the body is not yet cold, the relatives are grieving, and she is going after one of the victims of a shooting? This is acceptable? And, Sarah Palin referring to targeting congressional districts as hate speech?
Is this something that's unique to this writer for this paper, or is this an opinion that is shared by others in that movement, maybe going all the way up to the White House?
No, it's not unique to her. It's proved by the fact that she had to mention Ann Coulter and Planned Parenthood in there, okay? This shows it's just the standard boilerplate Democrat hate speech over if you're pro-life, if you're this, you're that, we can label you as this kind of person, and we can be, and we can be as vile as we want. And here's something else I'd like to bring up here that we discuss quite often on this show. Why aren't the Democratic candidates being asked to denounce this woman? Why doesn't that happen? If she had been a conservative pundit or columnist saying something this egregiously awful in public like that, there would be cries all over the media for every Republican candidate to disavow her, to denounce her. Nothing like that. This is where the Republicans need to learn to play this game better. They should all be out there screaming for Hillary Clinton to denounce this woman.
Do you think the president shares this belief?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I mean, what they have done is this moral equivalency that, especially when it comes to Jews and Christians, that speech on our part, speaking as a Christian, speech is equivalent to gunplay for the Muslims. And, I just wanted to ask Ms. Stasi, how many pipe bombs were found in that Messianic Jew's apartment after they wrapped up the body in the bag and took him away? How many weapons was he stockpiling so he could slaughter his colleagues in the name of his God? They know darn well that there's nothing like that in legitimate Judaism or Christianity, and that the sole religion that clings to this as a way of life has been Islam. And we've got to do anything we can to deflect and to distract, which is why the president was talking about gun control, not about the real problem.
This column was approved by editors. It had to go up the food chain within the newspaper. It's in line with what else they've been doing. They compared Wayne LaPierre to a terrorist on the front page of the paper. They've been just vicious with Donald Trump on the front page of their newspaper. Should any Republican continue their subscription to this newspaper after they've behaved the way they've behaved since the shooting?
No, it's very irresponsible, and I don't think that she is just some reporter who happened to get up through the food chain with this. I think it was probably an editorial directive. Go out and see if you can find this. I'm pretty sure this was a top-down thing, and she was dispatched to do this, not just some crazy who came in and go, oh, I got a story, and it just somehow happened to make it through. This probably, if you look at the body of work for this paper, it probably was an editorial directive, and that's why people should be going after it a little more, because it's really irresponsible stuff.
And you know what it is, too? It's a newspaper that is having hard financial times.
Yes.
And they're trying to create space for themselves within that New York market as the left-wing tabloid. You've got the New York Times, who considers themselves the paper of record, which all of us laugh at. Then you've got the New York Post, which is the tabloid that leans to the right. And there's really not a lot of space out there for a third paper, even though New York does have three papers. I think is what they're doing here is they're going the MSNBC direction after Keith Olbermann started to show some life. And so they said, all right, let's build a network in the image of Keith Olbermann and just run with that and see how far that'll take us. But Scott, to me, it's dangerous. It's dangerous to put stuff like this out there where you tell every terrorist on planet Earth, you know what, if you kill the right people, we're willing to give you a pass.
Yeah, it was like if they had captured the killers alive and put them on trial, that they would have been found guilty of 13 counts of murder, but innocent of the one because the guy was deserving. I mean, it was virtually self-defense because of this wacky Messianic Jew who thinks that Ann Coulter would make a great Homeland Secretary. This is one of the why I'm so glad that we have the internet now, that we have things like PJTV and PJmedia.com, where we have an opportunity to push back against this narrative that, think about it, in previous days when unanswered, the only way you could push back on the newspaper was to write a letter to the editor, and they had to go, shall I print this letter that is accusing us of being a bunch of racist hate mongers? I think not so this week.
You know what's funny? If you live in a big city like we do in Los Angeles, and there's gang violence, you have one gang going after another gang, and you have a shootout, and one of the gang members gets killed, and I were to go on the radio and say, you know what? When you're a gang member and you're shooting at people and you're involved in organized crime, sometimes that happens. Not a tragedy in my mind. You're decried as a racist. You don't. It's all life is precious. All life is valuable. How dare you not mourn for the death of this person who could have reformed themselves and done something later on in their life? They really come down on you hard. For gang members who are out shooting people and killing people and selling drugs and breaking the law as their occupation. This poor guy was just at a Christmas party, and they're perfectly fine to see this guy shot in the head. They're happy about it, but the gang members they have sympathy for.
She probably hated him doubly because he was a Messianic Jew who was a Jew, then became a Christian. So she had the double hate. She probably justified it even more in her head. Like, no, it's no big secret that it's perfectly okay to be prejudiced and hateful towards Christians and Jews in Barack Obama's America. That's the way things are. That's what's happened in this country, right? That's how far afield we've gone at the moment.
Does it matter, Scott, that this was a Christmas party? Do you think that's something that should be stressed more?
I'm not sure about that. I don't know if I haven't seen any evidence anyway that the killers were saying, "Hey, let's take him out on Jesus' birthday." I really don't think that's it, and I don't see many in the mainstream media even making a big deal about that fact. Frankly, a lot of these sort of government Christmas parties are pretty watered down. It's kind of your annual end of the year party and with a little bit of tinsel thrown around. I do think that there is a misunderstanding at best and a jihad at worst against faiths like Judaism and Christianity, which have thrived and succeeded, and wherever they have gone, have blessed the nations who have followed their tenets, because the exact opposite has happened with the nations who have followed the tenets of Islam. And those places are mired in the 7th century with usually a little group of tyrants at the top who are making a lot of oil money. I think we cannot allow these so-called mouthpieces of the mainstream media to lump Christianity, Judaism, and Islam all in the same monotheistic God box. It's just not the case.
All right, Scott, you get the last word. Now it's your turn. What do you think? Is the left so unwilling to hear arguments they disagree with that they're making them morally equivalent to terrorism? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm John Phillips. Thanks so much for watching The Rundown.